Hey, how's it going? We're going to go over a little bit of drawing here. I think it's going to benefit you a lot. I'm going to go through this drawing right here of the Stegosaurus, and I'm going to, talk about a couple little tips that'll really help you out as far as your drawing goes. And yeah, let's get started. Really, I'm going to kind of do this as I am talking. So right now I'm kind of digging into this. Stegosaurus is, I think it's a Triassic period dinosaur, but it's one of the hardest things I had time with is after you kind of like learn to draw like an animal or a person or anything like that. One of the harder things to do for me was to actually make it like fix it into cool poses. You get like a lot of aids to poses, for example. You get a lot of like, little, like for example, I have this like figurine right here. You can't really see it. It's like it's not quite a Stegosaurus, but sorry, I can only put it on camera a little bit because it's screwing up my focus here. But you get these sort of things for aid, and there's kind of this idea of like, is reference cheating? Do you even need reference? And I was going to talk about one of the problems that I had the most when I draw. And when I was coming up, I kind of learned to draw at like 17 or 18. I think probably like 18 or 19, one of those. And that's when I was like first like formally taught how to draw. And something happened, right? At the very beginning, I learned to draw really quick. Really quick. I was like, oh, wow. Like within 2 years, I was already getting like within 1 or 2 years, you could see that I was getting a little bit better. And then what ended up happening was around year 3, I completely stalled, right? You have that beginner's luck and you kind of draw stuff you want to draw and you're like, boom. And you're like, wow, I can't go past this level anymore. What's going on here, right? And not only and then it gets even worse, right? Sometimes you're at a certain level in drawing and you're kind of thinking like, man, I'm getting worse. I don't know if that's ever happened to anybody. When you're drawing, you're like, wow, I used to be able to do that. That last drawing looked great, but now this looks terrible. And it starts to get, for me, it started kind of tumbling down where I was like starting to overthink at that point. Like, no, I did this last time. I can do this time. I should be at this stage of the game, right? And that only made it worse. It's like scary, right? When you're getting good at a certain rate and then you start to really slow down and then you're like, what is happening? Can I even do this? And I got stuck in one of those. And I think that is a really dangerous place to be because I think at that point you're kind of going like, okay, either I'm going to push through this plateau and try to get better at, this drawing skill that I like, or it's going to go really bad, right? It's going to get worse. And I don't know what I'm going to do, right? And I took that route. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I ended up quitting drawing for like a bit. I don't remember how long I quit. I wish I had all these time frames, but I remember quitting for at least a year, maybe more. And yeah, that was like the best thing I ever did because when I went back to drawing later, the pressure was off. I didn't feel that same bizarre, pressure and urge or any of that, like, to kind of impress anybody else or impress myself. I just felt like, okay, I can do this again without any, again, I'm not putting pressure on myself this time, and now I'm just using what I know, right? And so that's kind of like a stage you want to get to. Okay, let's talk about some technical stuff about this. What am I doing exactly right now? Right now, around the front right here, I'm trying to separate some areas. So something I've talked about a lot is when you're trying to separate, normally after you're done with like the general line art-ish, what you're trying to do is you're trying to push things forward and bring things forward and push things back. And how do you do that? There's a lot of ways to do that. One of the ways that you could do that would be to push down very, very hard. And I've talked about this in the other video. Throw a thicker line toward anything that's closer to the camera. Because if you throw a thicker line on it, then it's just going to bring more attention and it comes forward more in the person's mind. And that is really, really important, right? If you want to do that. Sometimes it doesn't involve a line. Sometimes you're, maybe you're doing like a painting and maybe it doesn't really involve something very linear. You can still throw lines in paintings, of course, but sometimes you're doing something a little more tonal, right? And that's the way we used to talk about it. Either it's linear or it's tonal. Tonal meaning there's not that many lines and it's all shadow and shade and stuff like that. Or it's linear. So a linear way to do it would be throwing a thick line to make something come forward. Let me show you a tonal way to do it. And I haven't really talked about this as much on the channel, but I will, because shading takes a long time. But a tonal way to do it would be to, let's just say, okay, let me show you something in the corner over here. So let's do a tiny little box here. Tiny little box here. Okay. And okay. So let's just say a linear way to make, oh man, let me see. Let me put another little box back here. Just to kind of over here to make the point of linear versus tonal. Right over here, linear, if I wanted to make that come forward, right, I was talking about you thicken the line around whatever object you want closer. And I've talked about this a couple of times, but I'm going to find it. I'm going to repeat myself a lot. But linear, that's a linear way to bring it forward. You just draw a thicker line, and they can vary too. You can draw like a really thick on this side, and then make it thinner on the other side. That can totally be a thing. Tonally, it'd be a different, right? Tonally, I don't want to thicken any lines or anything like that. So what I would do tonally, let me move this thing over here so it's more obvious. Let me zoom in a little bit. Okay. So that's linear, right? Let's put an L right here. Linear. And then over here, it's tonal. Okay. So tonally, the best way to do this would be, you could do a couple of things. Number one, you could do this right here, which is you put, like, remember, we're thinking tone. You could maybe throw a little bit of, you could shade in the area behind it right here. Just shade it in, however soft or not soft you want to do it. You shade it in there. Okay. You just shade it in all the way along the edge over here, right? And when you do that, this comes forward, right? Sorry, let me move. Sorry about that. I'm gonna keep moving this. So linear, when I want this to come forward, I just thicken the line right there. Tonally, I'm more or less just shading around it right here, creating a little bit of contrast, or a lot of bit of contrast, of where I want the viewer to look. And so this can come forward. In some cases, you can darken something. It just depends on the composition, and that's a great way to go over it. I'm probably gonna put that in my. I'm trying to do a drawing program right now, so that's probably the way I'm gonna do the drawing program. Would be talking about all that, because there's so much nitty gritty in art. There's a lot of cool little tips that I like putting on the channel, but there's so much, I don't know, like nitty gritty and like what matters and what doesn't matter. There's a lot of that stuff. But anyways, that's kind of what I'm doing with this guy. I guess I'm doing a combination of like, what exactly do I want to come forward, and what exactly let me squish this, hold on. There we go. So like, what exactly do I want to come forward, and what exactly do I want to fall back into space, right? There's several ways to do it too, by the way. I can shade it lighter back here in general, maybe around the back. I can make this a little lighter, and then make the stuff over here maybe darker value, all right? A lot of different ways to do it, but the two to remember, okay? Linear versus tonal. Linear, I want to bring a shape forward by putting a thick line around it. That box is more closer to us than this, not just because it overlaps, but also because the line is thicker around it. And then right here, tonal. To be honest, you could kind of like put a little bit of value on this back box too if you want. You can kind of shade a little bit of the back box. I don't know if it even comes in on camera right there, but you can barely tell. But you can kind of give a little bit of value right here, and then this is really white, and this is really dark, which creates the most contrast in the area. Anyways, yeah, I just slipped into that. I should have started with those tips. I just kind of started with a story, but yeah. Oh gosh, my ankle hurts. Kind of twisted it. That's pretty much it. I just came on for a little bit. I wanted to talk to you guys in general. I hope TikTok sticks around. I'm very upset if it goes away, but whatever. But that's kind of it. I came on for like 10 minutes, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Go pick up a book if you can. I got a little sketchbook of sketches I've never put anywhere in my life. Go pick that book up. It's in the store over here. It's also I'm trying to replace the links on the Stan Store, I'm going to change over back to like, what do you call it? Linktree. But that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments, and I will try to get to them in the next live, okay? We'll talk soon, all right? Thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. Oops.